and welcome to the last demo of IntraSuite. And in this demonstration, we're going to be taking a look at securing and governing access to all internet resources. So taking a look here at our architecture view, our focus is going to be on the internet access portion, which is on the top right hand corner of your screen, of course. So in this demo, we're going to be taking a look at how we could take this scenario, for example, where a typical employee at Contoso, for these at least, all access to malicious sites and social media and all those things are blocked, but M365 and obviously LinkedIn is allowed. And there might be a marketing user that doesn't need access to, or should not have access to, all the other applications, including hacking sites, but does need access to social media because of their role. Similarly, we have a finance user that might need access to certain finance resources to make access or gain access to those, but social media for them is going to be blocked, right? So we have these different scenarios in terms of who can access what on the internet, and we are going to be taking a closer look at how internet access, intra-ID protection, and actually conditional access is going to play a role in providing the segregation of internet resources through the global secure client. All right. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Again, in this demo, I'm going to start off by showing you the admin side of things, how it gets configured, and then we'll run a brief example on how it looks for the end users. Right, so first of all, we want to get started here by setting up our global secure access. So we're going to just activate that for now, and assuming all the other configuration is already done, right? And we can then say we want to get started with this. The first thing that we want to do is we are just going to verify that our internet access profile is in fact enabled, right? So we're going to go and enable that for us, for all our users. Well, I say for all our users. We see here that it's not been assigned yet. So what we want to do is we want to change that. And we want to make sure that all our users can make access of the global secure access client. So we're going to go OK. And now that's all been enabled. The next thing that we need to do is we need to start with our configuration in terms of what type of internet access policies and profiles do we need to create in the end. So bear with me. It's a bit tricky, but I'll explain as we go along. The first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating web content filtering policies. Now, this is where we actually specify what type of sites to be allowed or to be blocked. So as you can see here, we have a default policy for all websites, meaning everything is open for everybody, right? So we can see that there's allow. So what we want to do is we want to start creating exceptions to this baseline. So we're going to go and create a policy, and we're going to call this baseline internet access policy. We're going to go to policy rules. We're going to add a rule, and we're going to give it a name, baseline policy or baseline blocked web categories. Right, so we want to say what default stuff is going to be blocked. So we have a default allow policy. The next thing that we want to do is we want to create a default block, right, for everybody. So this will be blocked for everybody. In this case, you know, we've selected to block hacking and social media, and maybe some other ones as well here. So I've selected those categories, and I'm going to add them to our policy. There it is. It's been allowed. I'm going to go next. And just to review, these are the things that we are going to be blocking, looking at the action, right? So that's our default blocking policy. Let's go create that policy. But we also want to create some additional policies, some exceptions. So based on that slide I showed around, you know, who needs to access what, we're going to create some exceptions to this baseline. So we're going to create two more policies. We're going to create allow, right? So we want to change that to allow social networking sites. I'm going to go next. Let's add a rule to define our categories. There we go. I'm going to search for social media. There we go. I'm going to select that and then click on add. We're going to go next. Make sure everything is what we want. Cool. Let's go and create that policy. Now we want to create something very similar for the hacking sites, exactly the same. So we're not going to go through this process again. It's done in the back end already. You know, I'm not going to waste your time. It's the same, exactly the same process. Different category though, of course. Then what we need to create is, now that we have our filtering policies created, we're going to create security profiles. Now, again, this is where I said it gets a bit tricky, but bear with me. So we have to start with the policies, and then we create security profiles. The reason for this is security profiles is a group of filtering policies. So imagine you have multiple policies that you want to apply into a particular profile, and it is this profile that we're going to be using in conditional access, right? So in our case, in our example, there's just going to be one policy per profile. But imagine you can have multiple policies in one profile and then combine and wrap your conditional access policies around that particular profile. All right, so let's go create a profile. Again, we need to give it a name. And we're going to assign a priority. Now, the priorities are very important because as you start having multiple profiles, and if you're a user where multiple profiles is applicable, you want to assign the correct priority. And so what we're going to do is, instead of saying the default 100, we're going to make it 1,000. And the reason for that is it gives us more room to play with priorities, right? So that's going to leave that one at 1,000. We're going to go next, and then we need to link it to a policy, right? The web filtering policies that we've created earlier on. So this is where you can add multiple. In our case, I'm just going to select the one. I'm going to change the priority again, because now imagine, I just mentioned priority for multiple profiles, but we also have multiple policies per profile. So we also want to create priorities around that. So you can already start thinking that from a production implementation perspective, there's a lot of thinking that needs to happen in terms of getting these priorities correct, in terms of which one should be at the top of higher priority. You know, typically your block policy should be of higher priority, I would imagine. But in this case, I'm going to also make this 1,000. Gives us more room to, in the future, go and play with additional priorities. So I'm going to go next. I'm going to create that profile, and very much similar to the hacking one, I'm going to create a separate profile for that. Exactly the same process. Like I said, our example is pretty straightforward, but you can imagine having multiple policies into a particular profile. All right. So next, what we have to do is we're going to go to conditional access, and we're going to make sure our policies are set up correctly here. So I'm going to go and create a new policy. Let's give it a name. Internet access allows social networking sites. And I'm going to apply this conditional access policy only to a group, right? And you'll notice the group that we use here is internet access allows social networking sites, or whatever it's called. We'll see in a minute where I go and use that group, right? How do you become a member of that group? But okay, there we have our group scoped. And the target resources, instead of our typical cloud applications that we're going to be choosing, we are going to be choosing Global Secure Access Preview. And we're going to then go and select our profile. So remember, we have our 3 profiles in Global Secure Access: M365, Internet, and Private Access. In our case, this is all Internet facing. So I'm going to select the Internet profile. And then lastly, under session controls, remember, this is not a conditional access policy that necessarily grant or blocks access at the conditional access layer. The grant and allow and block access to sites are actually done on the policies, or the web filtering policies that we've created earlier on. But for this conditional access policy, we're going to create a session, right? So under session, you'll see here at the bottom, there's use Global Secure Access Security Profile. And this is finally where we get to choose our profile. So I'm going to go allow networking sites, select that one. We're going to switch this policy on and go and create the policy. So again, for the hacking sites, we've created another policy here. You'll see here at the bottom. These policies can actually be further enhanced with a compliant network check, right? Ensuring the users connect from a verified network connectivity model for their specific tenant, and are compliant with the security policies that are enforced by administrators. So we already have such a policy here. You'll see Internet Access Enforced Compliant Network, just to show you this newer kind of condition that's been added here. So again, under users, this particular conditional access policy is just targeting finance users. And our target applications, as you can see, we've got Airbase and E-Trade. Both applications are being targeted here. And under network, we are going to say, remember, this is a negative policy. If I glance here at the bottom left, so this is a block policy. So we're going to block any network location apart from if you are coming from the compliant network locations, right? This is all part of the internet access or intra-suite or intra-ID internet access, right? And as I mentioned, we're obviously going to block access. So if you're not coming from a secure network or compliant network, you are going to be blocked access completely. All right. The last thing I want to show before we jump into the user experience is that group that we targeted the conditional access policies to. How do I become a member of that? And this is where the kind of things come together based on the other demos I've already shown. And this is where, again, I'm going to go to entitlement management. I'm going to catalogs. And you've noticed here, I've got a new catalog. So in the previous demo, we had our finance app catalogs, right? A list of all the stuff of finance that we could make use of in access packages. And in this case, we have internet access, right? So let's have a look in terms of what internet access. So we've got an access package here because that's how we want to drive the group assignment or the group membership, right? Is through an access package. So we've got two access packages here. I've got one for allow hacking sites, allow social, and all they're doing is something that we've already seen is on the access package, we have a resource of a security group. All right, so there's our group. The membership of that group is going to be driven by an access package. That's the answer to my previous question. So we can already see that we have this. We do have a policy as well, right? Remember in our previous demo, for every access package, you're going to have this initial policy that needs to be configured to make sure, what are the conditions for that access package. And we can see here, only if somebody from IT or the SOC team can have access to request access to this access package, right? Allow hacking sites. Cool. Similarly, I've got another one here, another access package, same kind of thing, group, assign membership of that group is driven through this access package. And also this particular policy that is applicable here has its own kind of configuration in terms of that. All right, let's take a look at the user experience. So we've got Nestor here. He is a SOC analyst, so he is part of the SOC team. And he occasionally explores the internet to learn about some new security threats. And he wants to go and visit a new website called Hack This Site. So notice here at the bottom right-hand corner, his global secure access client is running. And also if he types the Hack This Site, so he's going to do a quick search and he's going to click on the site, nothing happens, right? And that is because the site is by default being blocked, right? Remember our baseline blocked policy that we created? That is what is working here at the moment. So he does not have access at the moment. However, Nestor knows he can go and connect or request access to an access package. So he goes to my access portal and he clicks on access packages. And because he's part of the SOC team, this shows up, allow hacking sites. So he can click and request access to this access package and submits his request. And just to confirm that everything has been actually delivered, so his request has been fulfilled, he can go to request history and see that it was in fact delivered. And once he goes back here and clicks on the refresh page, access has been granted. Conditional access, intra-ID governance, and internet access, secure internet access, obviously, working at play here. Cool. Guys, thank you very much for sticking around and watching these videos. Please keep an eye out on future posts here on Control Alt Defend, where I'll take you through some of the news of security news related to Microsoft technologies. If you like what you've seen, again, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.